Hey YouTubers, welcome back to Going to the Country, show for city people thinking about moving out to the sticks. Today I want to talk about water conservation. Um, Depending on where you end up moving to, you might have to conserve in the summertime. You might not have as much water as you were used to having in the city. I grew up in Vancouver in British Columbia, and man, and when I was a kid, we had all the water. I mean, water was never a problem. You just did whatever you wanted to with water. You didn't even think about it. Turned on the tap, boom, there it was. Um, since I moved to the country over 20 years ago, uh, we were lucky on our first property. We did have a lot of water, but the last couple of years where we live now, water is a bit of an issue, and we've learned that we have to be a bit more responsible with it. And there's lots of things you can do, and it's not a big hardship. You just get into the habit of doing a few things. So let's talk about conserving water. I had to move into my studio. The rain kicked up, so here I am in the studio. Um, so water conservation. Some of the things that you can do in the summertime. Traditionally, we're used to using a lot of water outside in our backyards. Um, if you go to the country and water might be an issue in the summertime, encourage native types of plants. For us on the southwest coast of British Columbia, we have a lot of ferns, salal, Oregon grape, things like that in our backyard. That's low maintenance. It doesn't really need to be watered at all. Whatever nature gives it is usually enough to keep it green. Um, we also have in our area elderberry, which it can be quite a pain. It grows fast like bamboo, and it's really taking over some areas. It's almost invasive, so you have to watch out for some of the invasive things too, like elderberry, broom. But you can encourage or you can transplant things like ferns, salal, Oregon grape, and they're quite attractive. And my partner likes flowers, so she incorporates flowers and native plants together. And it works quite well, and it looks good, and it gives her a lot of enjoyment. Um, the other thing, and of course, some things do in her garden do need a bit of water. So storage is the key. I have buckets all over the property, basically anything that'll hold water. And in the summertime, I can just dip into those buckets and we can water vegetables and flowers, and it really takes a lot of pressure off the water we need for the house. So I'm going to get into that in a minute. Um, so we just spent 14 years on a southern Gulf island in BC, and we had some really dry summers there. And I had friends that had buckets stashed all over their garden outside so that they were collecting water all the time whenever it rained. And it didn't rain much in the summer, but when they needed a little bit of water, they had their stash of buckets all over their garden. So something to consider, and it's cheap. You can buy, little garbage pails, things like that, put them under your gutters and collect rainwater. Something else that we do outside, it's not so much of an issue where we are now because it seems to be wetter in the summer months. I'm not sure if that's global warming change or whatever that is, but the summers seem to be getting a bit wetter. But when I was in the Gulf Islands, I would just let my grass brown off. Just let it brown off. Let it die off. You don't have to water it. I mean, that's just keeping up with the Joneses of green grass, right? You don't have to water it. Let it die off. And as soon as the moisture comes back in the fall, it'll come right back to life. It greens up and no problem. So that'll save you a ton of water, just letting your grass brown off. So keep that in mind. In the house, there's things that you can do. You've probably already heard of a lot of these. There's a famous saying in the country, and that's if it's yellow, let it mellow in the bathroom. You don't have to flush the toilet every time you take a pee. That'll save you a lot of water. The toilet is one of your biggest users of water in the household. We've been doing that for years. Even on Gabriela, where we had a really good well and lots of water, I just did it out of a habit. And we certainly do it now where water is a bit more of an issue for us. When you're brushing your teeth, turn the tap off. You don't have to have the tap running the whole time you're brushing your teeth. Just shut it off. Get into the habit of doing that. In your shower, get the special nozzle. You can get a low flow nozzle, and you can also get a nozzle that shuts off at the nozzle. And get into, if you're really worried about water, you can have a Navy shower. You get yourself wet and you soap yourself, and you shut the shower off and you soap down. Get your hair wet, do your shampoo, have your wash, soap yourself down, turn the water back on, and rinse. You get the special nozzle with the shut off right there, and that way, when you turn it back on, it's already charged, and chances are it'll still be hot right there. So you're not, looking for that whole hot water thing again. Those work really well. In the kitchen, you can just try to cut down on your water usage with your dishes. Maybe just do your dishes once a day. And in the laundry, you got to do laundry. There's not much you can do there. The other thing that people do in the country, and different jurisdictions have different bylaws. Not everybody allows it, but something you can look into is collecting your gray water, especially from your laundry. Your laundry produces a lot of gray water, and a lot of people collect that in a separate tank. There are settling tanks. There's different ways to do it, and they'll use that gray water in their toilet tank. So they're not actually, they're not using their good water for their toilet. And that works really well. That's a system that you might want to look into if you think that you might have problems with water in the summertime. Even in a lot of cities now, people are starting to talk about conserving water. And the key is storage. The more water you can store when there's lots of rainfall, the more water that you can store for those lean times, the better off you are. So storage is a great idea. If you're in the country and you're on a well and you discover that even though your well log said you had this many gallons a minute, that doesn't mean that might not disappear. There's no guarantees. So you might want to consider, if you discover that you are having problems in the summertime, your well's drying out, look into getting a cistern. They're not cheap. You get a 500 gallon or 1,000 gallon cistern and collect rainwater when there is rain to be had. And then if you find that you have a well that's drying out, worst case scenario, you can buy water. It wasn't that expensive. I've talked about that in the past. It wasn't really that expensive, but that's always a backup plan. If you have to, you can buy water. So there you go. There's a couple of ideas for conserving water. Things to think about. Of course, all that stuff's out there on the internet and research. I'm just trying to, through this series of videos, I'm just trying to kind of bring all that stuff together for you in one place and simplify it and make it easy to understand for you. So there you go, conserving water. The other thing about having a cistern or water storage, even if all you have is a 50 gallon barrel outside that's full of water from when it rained, if you have a power outage, and they do happen in the summertime, if you have a power outage, you've got water for your toilet and for your tea and coffee as well. But they're handy for a power outage as well. So next time, I'm going to talk about power outages and some tips and some tricks, way to survive power outages. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.